Welcome back to the double leg. I'm one half of the show, Hey Jai Picks, the other half of the show, the Parlay. Joining me in, how we doing?
Good, man. What's going on? One more week and we get
One more
fights.
week. That's right. We got 8 days now. This is Thursday, and we'll be coming out with the UFC Vegas 67, I believe, preview very soon. And in this video, we're gonna be going over our UFC predictions for 2023. We're gonna say who we think will be the champ by the end of the year in all the weight classes, fights that we want to happen in 2023, some dream fights. If any of them happen, I'll be happy. And then some fighters to watch in 2023. There's a lot of them. I got a lot on my list, but we'll try to narrow it down as much as we can. First of all, we'll address some of the elephant in the room. We're a couple days late on this, but still want to talk about it a little bit. Dana White scenario. Some news dropped on it today. I don't know if you saw, but the Power Slap League gets pushed back 1 week. And the irony of the situation, him dropping the new Power Slap League and then gets in a slap battle with his wife. Unfortunately, that's probably the only consequence that he'll suffer, I think, is the Power Slap getting moved back a week. And they were talking like they were maybe going to just ditch the whole Power Slap thing. TBS was, because there's the ones that are going to air it. But they end up saying they're just going to push it back a week. So I'm kind of excited for that. I was interested to see how it went. But what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, I actually saw people online that thought that was like legitimate promotion for the Slap League. People are saying, "Oh no, dude, look, he barely hit her." That's just promotion because he's got the Slap League getting ready to air on TV, but definitely not when companies are coming out saying they're not going to air it because of that incident. I don't know. Bad look for Dana White for sure. Unfortunately, or fortunately for him, or however you look at it, it's not going to really affect him that much. He's a big enough name. The UFC is not going to, the shareholders aren't going to get rid of Dana White over this. He's the biggest and, most prominent name attached to the UFC right now. He's basically built the thing from scratch with the Fertitas. So Dana White's not in any trouble, on that side of things, but it's definitely kind of a black eye to him. I don't want to say his legacy because I do think this is just going to pass in 2 to 3 weeks. Nobody's ever going to hear about it again. But yeah, definitely not the best look you want to go for if you're, the president of a huge company like the UFC.
Yeah, not a good look, but I will say I think he handled it very well and addressed it quickly and owned up to it and said all the, the hate he's going to receive for it is valid and warranted. Yeah. So I think he handled it the best he could. But either way, not a good look overall, and almost lost something that he's definitely been working on for a while. And those fighters too, those fighters. If that doesn't get aired, all they did over however long it was leading up to that would have sucked. But
dude, I wasn't sure what to think about the slap boxing thing, but I saw like a promo video for it today. It actually looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
No, it looks like it could be, somewhat entertaining. I thought it was going to be a little gimmicky or generic, but the promo they cut for it actually made it look like it was going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, and they did it Ultimate Fighter style, I believe. So I think that's like the best way you could have done it to like get the promotion for it is get the drama within the house surrounding it and give some more, action to it. So I'm excited to see how it looks. And airing on TBS, everybody can watch it. So it's I guess if you have a streaming or cable service, but it's not pay-per-view or it's not behind ESPN Plus wall or anything like that. So
yeah, for sure,
pretty cool stuff. But we'll move right into who we think the champions will be at the end of the year. Honestly, when I was going through these and making it, it's so hard to think a year, like a full 12 months from now, who is going to be active, who's going to get opportunities, injuries, all that kind of stuff. So some tough decisions were made. But I guess we'll start with the flyweight division. Who do you think?
I want to say Brandon Moreno because he's my favorite flyweight right now. As far as who could be the flyweight champion at the end of the year, I feel like there's a small circle in that division. You know, it's not that deep of a division. So I think it's going to be either Brandon Moreno, Figueiredo, or you could see a guy like Pantoja kind of sneak up and grab the belt from one of those two guys at the end of the year. But outside of that, I don't see many flyweights that are going to make big enough leaps because it doesn't seem like they're active enough because the division's not real deep, like I said. So I'm going to go with Brandon Moreno, champion 2023. I think he's got the skills. He's finished Figgy before. Every single fight they have with each other is close. And then he'll just have to defend the belt, I'd say, one time and hold on to that championship belt for the end of the year. So that's what I'm going to go with. I was going to say there's a couple guys coming up right now that I like. Jeff Molino is one who I thought was going to have a great year, but right now he's suspended in what people think isn't connected to the whole James Krause situation. But with him being out and the division not that deep, I'm just going to stick with Brandon Moreno.
Yeah. So you're taking Brandon Moreno over Figueiredo in the fight this month.
Yes, sir.
What you're saying, I would agree with you. We're going to go over the preview, of course, for UFC Brazil, but I think Brandon Moreno gets it done. But other than that, like you said, I think he has to defend the belt at least one more time within the year. And I think if Pantoja gets the opportunity against him or Figueiredo, I think he beats both of those guys. I really do. This guy's a savage. He's gone on a bit of a run here. He's won his last three: Manel Kape, Brandon Royval, and Alex Perez. A round one finish against Perez, round two finish against Royval. And he's already beaten Brandon Moreno. It was in 2018, but all around on the feet, he's a savage. He will go in your face and put the pressure on you. And then on the ground, he's top notch on the ground. So yep. I went with Pantoja because I think within this year, he has to get a shot. His next fight should be for a title. If he fights, let's say like March, April, somewhere in there, and wins in dominant fashion, he's got to get the next opportunity. So, and I think he wins. I think he beats either guy. And, the whole parity within the UFC, Brandon Moreno. It's been Brandon Moreno and Deiveson Figueiredo for the longest time. So at the top. So it's the fourth fight. So, I think the flyweight division is due for a new champion, and Pantoja may not be the best face for it, but I think he's the most skilled, and I would put him up against any other flyweight. So give me Pantoja. As far as bantamweights go, this one was super tough because bantamweight is one of the deepest divisions in the UFC. I think it's the most deepest division from top to bottom. And there's a lot of names you could throw in here. I did make that video about Umar Nurmagomedov to be the champion at the end of 2023 at plus 4,000. I thought that had to be worth a little sprinkle just based on the name and the opportunities that he could get. But ultimately, I went with Aljamain Sterling just for the fact that he is so – I think people just still underestimate him. He's so good. I think he beats Cejudo. And if he chooses to stay at 135 and not move up to 145, I don't think he loses to anyone, just for the fact that he has such a dominant ground game. And the other guys in the division outside of Cejudo, and you could say Merab, but Merab's said he's not going to fight Aljamain. Nobody can match his skill on the ground, I don't think. You could maybe say Umar, but at this point, who knows? Aljo is just so damn big. And I had this kind of picture in my head, a dominant wrestler that gets to be champion and then starts, to get better on the feet and kind of hone his skills on the feet. That's Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman was that way. And Aljamain, dominant wrestler his whole UFC career. He's won back-to-back title defenses. I think he's only getting better. I think he's only getting better. He's super big. I honestly don't know how he makes 135. He's 5'7", and just absolutely shredded and jacked. Like I see pictures of this dude, and I'm like, if he was 3-4 inches taller, he'd be looking like Kamaru Usman. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Aljo. If he stays at 135, I think he stays there. What about you?
Yeah, no, Aljo. It's hard to pick against Aljo just stylistically against these guys that are coming up. I wanted to say O'Malley just because he looked phenomenal against Jan, and Petr Yan has been called the best bantamweight on the planet over and over and over again, and he was able to get back up from the takedowns. He was able to strike with him at times, and you could tell O'Malley he's getting better. A lot of people kind of wrote him off as a gimmick because of the hair, because of the tattoos, and he's got all this stuff going on outside of the UFC. But against Petr Yan, he looked really, really good, and he looked like he can compete with anybody at the top of the division. But the difference between Yan and Aljo is that if Aljo gets the takedowns, he is so much more active with the submission game, and he's going to take your back and just backpack you, whereas Petr Yan's not really that kind of style. He's going to ground and pound. So I think Sean O'Malley is in a lot more trouble on the ground with Aljo than he was Petr Yan. And then you got guys like Merab, who Aljo, like you said, is not going to fight Merab. You got Chito Vera, and then you got Henry Cejudo, and I don't see Cejudo getting past Aljo. I just don't. And if Aljo can beat him, I think he beats Sean or Chito. So, yeah, I got to lean Aljo here too. And if I have to pick between Sean O'Malley and Chito to beat Aljo, I think I would go Chito at this point because Chito's got a pretty underrated ground game. I just don't know if anybody really has the skills to beat Aljo right now. I mean, like you said, he is getting better. His striking is coming along a little bit, and then everybody knows when he goes to the ground with Aljo, he's going to be the superior fighter. So, yeah, end of the year, I don't see anything changing unless Aljamain Sterling leaves the bantamweight division behind and goes up to 145.
Agreed. Speaking of 145, is anyone going to be taking Volk's spot, you think?
I don't see it happening. I think Volk is the best pound-for-pound fighter, complete fighter on the planet. Like, yeah, there's Islam at 155, and he's super dominant with the wrestling and grappling. But Volk, he can kind of do it all, and especially at 145 where he's not going to be undersized. He's going to be just as fast as everybody else. And as far as the guys sitting behind him, I mean, he just beat Max Holloway 3 times. Ortega had him in as much trouble as Ortega could have possibly had him in. And Volk got out of those submissions 2 times in a row. Korean Zombie couldn't touch Volk on the feet, and Volk just pieced him up. So, I mean, if you can't beat Volk on the feet and you can't submit him on the ground, you can't beat him. And I don't see anybody outside of, Brian Ortega, who is the best submission artist in the division. He couldn't do it. Max Holloway, supposedly the best boxer in the UFC. He couldn't do it. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't see anybody having anything for Alexander Volkanovski at 145.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, he went, 8 rounds in like 30 seconds of fight time in 2022, and he didn't even have like a scratch on him, really. Like, he just dominated the entire time he was in the octagon against, for a belt, 2 title challengers. One of them, Max Holloway, who's probably more in his prime right now. Just pieced up the best boxer in the UFC. And, I just don't see anyone beating him. Obviously, that interim title fight is going to be happening on the same card that Volk's fighting for the 155 belt. So I would figure, if Volk wins or loses that, is he going to fight the winner of the interim belt eventually? So it's got to happen sometime within the year if he's healthy, if everyone's healthy. And I don't see anyone beating him at 145. So I think he holds on to that one. Whether he gets that 155er, if you were to say Volkanovski to be the lightweight champion at the end of 2023, you'd only get plus 350. That seems like it should be more.
Yeah.
But yeah, is anyone going to take out Islam? Like, I don't see anyone. It's the same deal there for me. It's like, I don't think anyone touches Islam, and I don't think anyone touches Volkanovski. Does anyone else stand up for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think Volkanovski has the best chance, honestly, and I don't see him beating Islam here. Islam's he's just one of those fighters, once in a decade that comes along that nobody can really beat. I mean, yeah, there's going to be better strikers than him, but his grappling and his wrestling is so next level that he just kind of voids anybody else's skill set. And we saw it with Charles Oliveira, a guy who beat Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier. You know, he was beating everybody and doing it impressively. And Islam made him look, I mean, dare I say amateur, but Islam took him out with ease.
He did, yeah.
And, you know, Charles is one of those guys that people fear on the ground, and Islam took it straight there and found the submission in the second round pretty easily. So, yeah, right now, I don't see anybody competing with Islam at 155 either. It's like those three divisions, man, Aljo, Islam, and then Alexander Volkanovski. I mean, those three in a row are just unbelievable right now. It's hard to see anybody beating them unless they start moving up and fighting each other.
Yeah, very tough. And the things he did to Charles Oliveira, you could say it was just a bad night for Charles Oliveira, but either way, Islam looked like he was on a different level. And Charles Oliveira was the dominant force at 155 for the past, year and a half.
Yeah.
On that long winning streak, and looked like he was just a godsend. And I believed it. And I looked pretty bad about it. But the division that got shook up this year, or last year, I guess, the welterweight division, Kamaru Usman was the reign for a while. It's now Leon Edwards. What are you thinking on this?
Dude, this is a tough one because there's so many guys that have the ability to be the champion at the end of this year. You got Hamzat. You got guys like Bilal Muhammad, who just beat Sean Brady real impressively, who everybody writes off in every single fight. You know, in the Vicente Luque fight, in his past fight with Sean Brady, he was an underdog. So, yeah, I mean, he's already been in there with Leon once. It ended early for that eye scratch or eye poke. But if Hamzat can't make 170, I think Bilal goes in there and gives Leon a good fight this time. And I think, whether he beats him or not is up in the air. But, yeah, man, I don't think Leon's the champion at the end of the year. I really don't. I think Leon is a super good fighter. He's definitely one of the top 1, 2, or 3 in the world. But for some reason, that division, man, I don't know. I think it's gonna switch hands a lot coming up in the next few years because there's so many good fighters right there bundled up at the top. So I'm going to go, let's say Hamzat does make weight. I think Hamzat gets the championship. I think that's a terrible matchup for Leon. Let's just say Hamzat for now.
Hamzat. Yeah, this one is so hard. I mean, the betting favorite right now is Kamaru Usman. Leon Edwards is second. Hamzat is third. They're all less than plus 300. This one's very tough. I wrote down Leon Edwards, but honestly, I based that off the fact that he's going to be fighting on the London card. It's not official, but the talks of Kamaru Usman being injured with that hand injury, he had to get hand surgery or something.
Yeah.
That's why the fight's not officially booked. I don't know who's fighting, who he's going to be fighting. I don't know who Leon's going to be fighting. I would assume he's going to be the headliner of that card. If he's not, that card's kind of going to shit.
Yeah.
But I think he only fights once this year. So I'm saying if he wins that fight in England, I don't think he fights again, honestly. I feel like he's going to try to hold on to that belt as long as he can and not be super active about it. And who knows, with Hamzat, is he going to go for the 185 or is he even going to make 170?
Yeah.
But same thing. It's just so hard to figure this division out. Shavkat Rakhmonov plus 900. Don't hate that at all. The guy is an absolute savage. He beats Jeff Neal, maybe one fight away from a title shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a tough one. And ultimately, I went with Leon Edwards just for the fact that I think if he wins once this year, he takes it to 2023 or through 2023. And I mean, he's good. He's very good. I think he's gotten that confidence from getting the belt to be like, all right, I'm that guy and I can let everything go and just be that guy out there. And even if he fights Kamaru, we don't know how Kamaru is going to bounce back from that. And I don't know how healthy Kamaru is either. I saw something a prediction that Kamaru would retire in 2023. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of makes sense with how his health has been. His body has always been not great to him. I mean, the guy's a freak athlete, a freak specimen, but he's had a lot of health issues. So
Yeah.
if he goes into that fight, hurt and just kind of wants to get back at it quick because he lost it in such a weird way in a fight that he was dominating, and he goes and rushes in there too fast and Leon gets the win, is Leon going to rush to get back in the cage? I don't think so. So give me Leon Edwards in a really tough one, really greasy one, but kind of another greasy one here. Middleweight division, the passing of the torch. Well, kind of maybe a pass back here for Alex Pereira. And I'm guessing he's going to be fighting Izzy next. I mean, kind of have to give Izzy the rematch. Who do you think is going to be the champion at the end of 2023 in the middleweight division?
Yep. It is tough because I think it's definitely going to be Izzy and Alex in the rematch. Izzy was winning the whole fight, gets knocked out in the 5th round. Izzy was the champion for a long time before Alex, so he kind of deserves that rematch, even though he is 3-0 against him in all combat sports. But I do think it is Izzy next in the rematch. So it basically boils down to that fight. I don't think we see that fight till later in the spring, maybe early summer, and then we might not see another title fight at 185 until maybe early next year. So I do think Izzy gets it. I am going to say Izzy. I think he's too good of a fighter all around to not win his belt back. And then I think you're going to see that rubber match sometime down the line between him and Alex. But yeah, man, I think Izzy, he goes in there and gets it done. It's going to be a super good fight. I think we saw that Izzy had the ability to hurt Alex Pereira after that round 1 when he kind of wobbled him right there at the bell. And then had the fight in the bag up until the last, how many minutes there were in the 5th round left when he got TKO'd. But so yeah, I think if he goes in there again, he minimizes those mistakes, doesn't let Alex get him up against the cage and do his best work, and then somehow squeaks out a decision win. So I'm going to say Izzy on this one.
Yeah, this one's tough too because you're basically picking the first title fight of the year, and like who's going to win. And I just can't take Izzy. I want to take Izzy, but I just can't. Like, Alex Pereira is so damn scary and such a stud, and he's beaten him 3 times. I don't know. Does anyone get an opportunity? I know it was in a different. It was in Glory or not Glory. Was it Glory? Some
yeah.
Boxing.
I think
a different promotion. That's the point. And a guy that's lost to another guy 3 times, does he get a 4th opportunity? Only Izzy would. But I mean, it is deserved because he was a dominant champion for a while. I'm not going to take that away from him. Yeah. But either way, I mean, we've touched on it before. Pereira getting the reads for 5 rounds, found the knockout, and then gets back in the cage in MMA, and maybe he gets that read a little bit quicker the next time. And that guy just, if he hits you, it's pretty much over. So
right.
I'm going to go with Alex Pereira to be the champion at the end of 2023. Not super confident in it, but I think, as you said, probably early summer, maybe late spring, early summer for them to fight. And considering Pereira was fought 3 times last year, I think, as I said earlier, these guys that haven't been the champion before and kind of got it in a fashion that they shouldn't have gotten it, like, the round 5 knockout, these guys are not going to rush back in there to go fight again after getting the belt. They get so much more publicity, so much more money on social media, in ads, everything like that for being the champion. They're going to milk it as long as they can if they're smart at all. So I think Pereira probably fights once this year if he wins. If he loses, maybe he'll try to get back in there again. But I'm going to go with Pereira to win and not fight again. But the light heavyweight division, this one is completely up for grabs. There's literally no one to be the champion right now. A lot of names. I'm going to go through just a few of them right now. Who is the betting favorite is Ankalaev. Then you got Jamal Hill, Yuri Prohaska, Jan Blachowicz, and then Glover Teixeira. So out of those five, you picking one of them, or are you picking a dark horse?
I am going to pick one of them, and it's basically because I think if Glover wins the upcoming title fight, I think he'll defend sometime, but I think he's got to retire after his next loss. I mean, he's 43 years old. He's going to be 44 this year. I do think he retires, so I'm going to take him out of the picture for the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And then Jan Blachowicz, I don't see him getting a title shot this year after that performance with Magomed Ankalaev. Not that it was a bad performance, but for some reason Dana White hated it, and Jan's had his shot over and over. I don't think he gets it again either. I think if Jamal Hill wins against Glover at UFC 283, I think they make Magomed Ankalaev versus Jamal Hill, and I think Magomed could get it done there. And for that reason, I'm going to take the betting favorite. I'm going to take Magomed Ankalaev to be the champ by the end of 2023. But it's another division that it's, there's a handful of guys that you could look up at the end of 2023. It could be any one of them. So, but I am going to go Magomed.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. It's a tough one, though, because Yuri Prohaska at plus 325. I know they said he's going to be out with an injury for maybe a year, but I don't know, maybe he gets that late title shot in like November, December to come back and get his belt, and maybe there's some value on there. But the title challenge or the title fight alternate, Anthony Smith, is at plus 3,300, so they're not giving him much of a shot there. No. Jelton Almeida at plus 2,800. The guy's been just running through everybody.
If he could get a big fight and have a good win over against a big name, he could be right there in the title mix. Yeah, and it's a scary dude. So
with how, there's no champion right now, and there's, Jamal Hill was ranked sixth or seventh. Yeah, so it's not out of the question. But I do think if Ankalaev goes up against Jamal Hill, I think Ankalaev beats him, and I think he'll get that opportunity. So, I'm going to go with Ankalaev. Can't pick against a Magomed, as you say. So, this one's tough. Heavyweight. Is John Jones going to make a return to the octagon finally? And is he going to be the champ at the end of 2023? What do you think?
Yeah, it's tough because we've heard he's coming back. I think it was supposed to be 281 or 282. He was supposed to be back. Nothing. They're saying 285 now. And so if they push the next heavyweight title fight off until late spring or middle of the summer or whenever, that might be the only heavyweight title fight we see all year. So it's kind of tough. It's like if it is going to be John and Francis, you got to pick one of those two. But if we do get some activity, I think the dark horse and a guy that could definitely win the championship is Sergey Pavlovich, especially after his last couple performances. He just runs through guys. He's definitely motivated to be the champ. Wrestling's good. The striking is ferocious. What he did to Tai Tuivasa was just ridiculous. Same thing with Derek Lewis. So he's beaten some big-name guys. And, I think that's a bad matchup for a lot of these guys at the top of the division because he's one of those guys that can do it all. Francis gets away with beating guys because he has that big power shot and he knocks everybody out. Cyril Gahn is good because that, movement as a heavyweight is super slick. But Sergey, man, he can wrestle with you and he can stand with you. And if he gets you up against the fence and starts landing bombs, it's night. So I would like to see the odds on him. Do you have it pulled up?
On Francis?
Or on Sergey Pavlovich.
Oh, Pavlovich plus 650. I actually put in a bet for that.
That's actually lower than I thought since, there's not a lot of activity going on at heavyweight. So I was going to say more like plus 1,500 just because if they do make Jones and Francis, then, it's going to be a while before Sergey gets the next shot. But, yeah, plus 650 is not too bad. That's definitely some value there because I think he'll hold the belt at one point or another in the UFC.
Right. And he's been active. So,
yeah.
He starts his dudes in the first round. So it's not like he's out there in wars. But it is going to come down to how active the champion is.
Right.
For him to get that opportunity. And at this point, Francis doesn't seem to be too eager to get in the octagon. Neither does John Jones. Francis obviously holding it right now. He's the betting favorite against John Jones, which is tough because there's so many questions around that fight. And I feel like we're in the same boat here. Is like whoever wins that fight is probably not going to fight again in 2023, just based on how active they've been. John Jones hasn't fought in damn near 3 years. Francis didn't fight or hasn't fought in a year because of that knee injury. So, yeah, it's a tough one. And I'm going to go with Francis. He's the betting favorite. The guy is so damn big. Who knows how he's going to come back from that knee injury. But being that big, the knees aren't super important because they're not, fast and they're not trying to do all these explosive movements.
Yeah.
But who knows how John Jones is going to be at heavyweight? Is he going to be the same? Is he going to look filled out compared to Francis? Francis is one of the biggest dudes that has ever scraped the UFC octagon. So, yeah, dude, I got to go with Francis. I want to see a new champion kind of and just get some parity in that division because the title fights haven't been flowing in that division. So I just want to see something happen. That's all I want to happen. So, I just want to see a fight in that division for a title. So
for sure.
I honestly don't mind a Cirogan bet either, but at plus 300, just not enough activity that I would throw anything on it. But
yeah,
guy's so good too.
Yeah. No, I think you're definitely safest picking between the two guys who, the UFC want to fight against each other for the title next, and it's Francis and John. So
definitely, I did place that bet again on Pavlovich though. Just throwing that out there, plus 650. I had to throw something on there.
He's a savage.
Maybe it's a little recency bias, probably is, but that guy's crazy, and I would never want to root against him ever.
Yeah, no,
so
definitely.
I'll back him. As far as the women's divisions go, we got one new champion, two dominant champions over the past however many years. And I think Zhang Weili will be another dominant champion in the strawweight division. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I don't know. Do you see anyone taking over any of these divisions? Personally, I don't. But if you have any more time on it, I'm down.
The three champions right now in the women's division are three of the most dominant and three of the best fighters we've ever seen in women's MMA. Amanda Nunes, Valentina Shevchenko, and Zhang Weili. So I don't really see much changing at all. Talia Santos had a good outing against Shevchenko, but she's got to win again probably to get back. I think she's scheduled to fight here this spring, but she's got to win if she wants another shot. And then, what do you even do with Amanda Nunes? Do you just make that Shevchenko rematch with her? And then if that happens, then, it's still Amanda as the champ or Valentina as the champ. So, I don't know. I think these three, it remains the same. I don't think we see a ton of activity at the top of those three divisions, but I think they're all good enough they can hold their belt for another year.
Yeah, so Amanda Nunes is minus 500, Valentina's minus 250, Zhang Weili is minus 250. Personally, I think the one that has the highest chance of not being the champion at the end of 2023 would be Valentina Shevchenko. And that's basically for the fact that the challengers that are coming up, I think, have a good chance against her. Valentina is top notch, but we saw that she was human against Talia Santos.
Yeah.
This Manon Fior is super talented. And then Talia Santos is fighting Erin Blanchfield within the first quarter. And I think the winner of that fight has a good chance of getting a title shot, especially Erin Blanchfield. If she wins against Santos, I think she's got a good chance of getting a title shot. And she is very young, but very talented. And I would like to see that fight.
Yeah.
Zhang Weili, I don't think, maybe if, Tatiana Suarez comes back or something like that, but I don't see Rose beating her. I don't see Rose like coming back. Honestly, she just got choked out by Jillian Robertson. So,
Right.
Lemos maybe, but I think Wei Li is just. I just don't see her losing to anybody else.
Yeah.
I'm looking at these names and like, I think she takes them all.
Yep.
Same with Amanda Nunes, and Juliana Pena can say all she wants, but I don't know after that last fight. So.
Yeah, not looking good.
No, not at all. All right, we'll take a little switch in here and see some fights we want in 2023. Does anything come to mind as far as you? What's your number one fight you want to see?
The number one fight I want to see in the UFC this year is two guys that aren't even, I guess one is technically in the UFC, but not active. He's not in the drug testing pool. And the other one just left the UFC. I want to see the trilogy once and for all between Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz. Some of the books have the odds out right now for it. I think people are trying to get behind it just to see Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz compete one more time. Because if Conor comes back against anybody else but Nate or Tony, I don't know if I really like his chances at this point. So I'd love to see Nate Diaz and I'd love to see Conor. Outside of that, I want to see a scenario where Khamzat fights Kamaru Usman just because the wrestling is so damn good on both sides. I think it's going to be the highest of levels of wrestling you can get right now in the UFC. And then I think the third fight, if I had to go with any fight, it's going to be John Jones and Francis Ngannou. We've heard so much talk about it. John, obviously the GOAT. Francis, obviously the biggest power puncher and the most ferocious knockout artist we've ever seen. I think those two mixtures right there would make for a damn good fight. So those are the three fights that I'm going with for 2023.
I completely agree on all those. I'm going to do just a little switch on a couple of those. So instead of Francis against John Jones, I'm going to go Francis versus Sergey Pavlovich, just because the power between both of those guys is insane. And maybe we would get like a Derek Lewis-Francis fight where neither guy goes, but the way Pavlovich has been throwing, I don't know that he would be that content to just sit back and it'd be a boring fight. You said Khamzat Kamaru, that would be fun, but I think Khamzat versus Kobe would be more fun considering the buildup and all the shit talk that Kobe would have ready for Khamzat. And we all know how Khamzat has been as far as press conferences go. He gets them canceled. So that one would be crazy. Another high-level wrestling match there. Cheeto and Sean O'Malley, the rematch. Everyone wants to see that. That would be sick. John Jones versus anyone. We just want to see him in there at all.
Right.
Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush. I think that's kind of an underrated one that I was thinking about. And I've heard before because both guys are at the top of the lightweight division. Charles is like, who does Charles fight next? Maybe you say he fights Beneil Dariush and the winner of that gets the next title shot after Islam and Volk. And then just one for pure violence, Justin Gaethje and Rafael Fiziev. So that one would be crazy.
A good one.
That one, it's going to be a stand-up battle. And Justin Gaethje's been in how many fights of the year? And Fiziev is just an insane Muay Thai, just solid dude. Like, he could take one, he can give one. So that would be a sick one. But, yeah, those are mine. If we get any of those, I'll be happy.
Tons of good fights to be made in 2023. I think it's going to be a good year for the UFC. We just got to stop getting these fighters to pull out. A lot of injuries lately. But if we get injury-free for the most part in 2023, I think it's going to be a fun year full of some big fights for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we had such an amazing first quarter lined up in the UFC, and people would they're dropping like flies. I just saw today, Guram Kutaladze is out against Thiago Moises. I was like, dang, bro. Like, I really wanted to see that fight.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of just on the bubble of the unranked in the lightweight division, so which is a stacked division. Fighters to watch in 2023. There's a lot of them. What do you got on your list?
When I was making the list is before I saw that Jeff Molina was suspended now. He was going to be one of my fighters on the list. At 135, Umar Nurmagomedov dude, I mean, the guy is just insane with his wrestling. He's resilient. Definitely got to keep your eye on him. I do think Arman Sarukian in that division is going to be a dark horse. I think he could work his way all the way up to a title shot, and that's a fight down the line. If he keeps improving, it's going to be tough for Islam. Definitely got to go with Shavkat Rakhmonov because 16-0. He's a guy that people have kind of compared him to Hamzat. I don't think he's quite as dominant with the wrestling, but he's a guy that is very well-rounded, a guy that's going to win a ton of fights in the UFC. So you got to keep your eye on him. And the last one we've already talked about and that I had written down, Sergey Pavlovich. I just think if he can stay active, it's going to be a huge year for him. We kind of touched on all the points. Knocked out Lewis, knocked out Tai Tuivasa. Whatever he does next is going to get him right to the title shot. And if he can win the title, man, that could be our champion for a while. So those are my 4 that you got to keep your eye on for 2023.
I like it. I like the route you took because I took a different route. And I like when we give the audience a little bit of a different perspective. So all of yours, I believe, were ranked fighters. I went with unranked fighters just to give a little bit of a deeper dive to anyone that doesn't know a lot of these guys. But we touched on him earlier. Jelton Almeida, got to keep an eye on him. Caio Borralho, got to keep an eye on him as well. Not one of the most exciting fighters you'll watch, but very good on the ground, very smart. And I think he'll get more wins, a lot of wins this year. Michael Morales, I believe he's had 2 fights in the UFC.
I'm glad you said him. Yes.
He's very good. Yeah. Very, very good. Still undefeated. And I think who was he booked to fight at the end of the year? I want to say
he was booked in that.
It was
on the prelims at 281.
I can't remember, but it was a good fighter. I forget who it was. Let me just look it up real quick. But what is he like? Venezuelan or something?
Yeah. Let me know which card it was because I feel like I did a video about him.
Oh, it was Rinat Fakhretdinov. That's who it was. The last
who ended up fighting Brian Battle recently, right?
Yeah, Brian Battle stepped in.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I guess it would have been the last card of the year.
Yeah, last card of the year. Ecuadorian fighter, undefeated, super talented. Jonathan Martinez, he's kind of on the bubble in the 145, but he was undefeated in 2022, I believe.
Those leg kicks are so nasty.
Oof.
I mean,
No, the TKO against Cub Swanson with the leg kicks. Got to keep an eye on him. Mario Batista.
That's a good one.
He's in a tough division, but if he keeps climbing the ranks, I think he could do some damage. Jack Della, of course, you got to keep an eye on him, the newcomer in 2022. I would probably say rookie of the year in that one. 3 straight first-round knockouts in 2022. Keep an eye on him. Javid Basharat. He's fighting on the first card of the year, I believe, here.
Yep. Next Saturday.
Yeah, super talented. And I guess you can infer what my pick will be next week in the preview video. But 2 more here. Gregory Rodriguez. I think you got to keep an eye on him. He's going to get some more opportunities this year. He's on that Brazil card against Brad Tavares. And I think he beats Brad Tavares. I haven't seen a line on that one yet, but I think he beats Brad Tavares. He's going to get another ranked fight. And the guy's a savage. He puts on fun fights. So keep an eye on him. Last one, a bit of a buy low, I would say. Saidukab Kakramanov, unranked, just lost to Said Nurmagomedov on the last card of the year in 2022. But he was winning that fight. He was winning that fight until he
just got caught.
Caught with that guillotine. And the guy is talented. The guy can maul wrestling, and he goes in there with a lot of aggression. And I think that kind of got him caught against Said, but he's going to get some fights in 2023. I think he wins in a lot of the fights against the other bantamweights. So tough division, though. Very tough division. So those are my fighters to watch. All of them are unranked. And by the end of 2023, we're going to come back to this video, and they're all going to be ranked. You heard it here first. All right. What is that? 45 minutes. And I we're gonna come back to this video for everything, even the champions by the end of the year, and hopefully we got some right. If not, then some wild stuff happened.
It's one of those years, man. You never know. We could be completely
years.
wrong, and the UFC is good enough at the top of the divisions right now where anybody could be champ on anybody's given night. We saw it with Leon Edwards this year, and I'm not going to be surprised if some people shake up the UFC this year too. So it should be a fun 2023.
We're looking forward to it. At HeyJai Picks on the socials for me. I'm currently on a temporary ban on TikTok, but you can follow my backup account at HeyJai Picks 2.0 at the double leg for the medias on here, on all the Instagram and TikTok. And then if you're watching here on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Where can they find you?
On TikTok, you can find me at the Parlay. Twitter and YouTube is the Parlay_media. And then on Instagram would be, I guess, the Parlay_media as well. So,
all righty. We'll be back very soon with UFC Vegas 67 preview. Till then, double leg, signing out.